Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Wednesday drawing session with me, Frank Cho. There's my trusty Pentel mechanical pencil with zero point 0.7 HB millimeter lead and my kneaded eraser. And here's my favorite paper to draw on, Strathmore Bristleboard 300 series with vellum surface. Love the vellum surface. It actually really grips the pencil really well. So today, I am going to draw the Scarlet Witch. Now, Scarlet Witch has a very confusing origin story. Actually, the more I read about it, the absolute crazy it is. Anyway, so I have Scarlet Witch in mind, the pose in mind already. So she's standing and like pretty much every magical character, sorcerer and sorceress and all that, they all always have their hands up with their fingers pointing. Your typical Doctor Strange pose. The with the fingers and all that. Which is so that's the hard part. I mean, you can only draw so many poses with people pointing fingers, hands at you. Before it becomes kind of generic and all that. So I just decided to just go for, just more kind of like a very iconic stance where she's standing straight, in a heroic pose, and she has her hand out. Um, she has her both hands, up and kind of in ready to cast a spell or in defense. So that's the pose I had in mind. And once I have that locked in, I just basically transferred that mental image down onto the paper. And so when you're drawing a female character, you make sure that, you emphasize the hips. I know that a lot of people don't seem to draw women's hips. They seem to draw like women as skinny guys. So when you're drawing women, make sure their hips are, kind of pronounced. The width of the hips are usually about the same width as their shoulders. So keep that in mind when you're drawing women. So there I have her kind of like have her hand out. It's almost like that, MC Hammer, stop, it's hammer time kind of pose. Um, Yeah, I mean, it's once I have the figure in mind, I just it's pretty much comes pouring out of me at this point. So, Scarlet Witch. Okay, so I was never really a big fan of Scarlet Witch because I'm not a big fan of magical characters because I think magical characters are a bit of a cop out, for a lot of writers because this is always like, oh, you're faced with some impossible problem and then suddenly they use magic to get out of it. I think that's kind of a bit of a cop out for writers. So I never really care for Scarlet Witch. But I mean, no. That being said, I did love her the way she looked, the overall design, with that, especially her headdress. She has this really kind of like a Mazinga Z kind of headdress. It's almost like a kind of like a Wolverine looking thing. So I like the overall design of Scarlet Witch, but as a character, I was just never really too fond of. And then I actually did some research when I was drawing to study up for to draw her. And the more I read, the more crazy it was. So she was first originally appeared in the X-Men #4 in March of 1964. That was created by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee. And so she was the member of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, which I think was a little bit too on point, naming your team as the Evil Mutants. So anyway, so she, so she and her brother, she has a twin brother, Petro Maximoff, who is the Quicksilver, and she was Wanda Maximoff. She was the Scarlet Witch, and I really don't know how to say her, her origin story is just crazy because originally they thought she was a mutant, but she wasn't a mutant. She was just basically a like a highly evolved human being, influenced by high evolutionary who experimented on her when she was a child. So that whole mutant gene thing was they kind of like got rid of, wrote off, completely wrote her off that she's not a mutant, but she's like a different kind of human being. And that when I was reading the X Men back in the '80s and '90s, I always assumed that she was part of the that Magneto was her father. And then now I'm like reading all this saying that no, Magneto was never her father. So they're just constantly like really mucking around with her background story. So they're kind of at one point they said the her parents were Bob Frank the Wizard, which is a terrible name. Is basically a guy in the 1940s who ran really fast. He was basically a Marvel's version of the Flash, but his name was the Wizard. I mean, I think they should have really rethought that name. Anyway, and and their mom was Madeline Joyce Frank, Miss America. So Miss America was kind of like a Wonder Woman type character in the golden age of, I guess, the 1940s. So those were her parents, and then and then the new writer came in and they said no, they weren't her parents, and then they basically said that her parents were Django and Mariah Maximoff. Some Romanian or something like that. Basically gypsies, I guess. And then they changed it, saying, and then they got rid of that storyline, and then saying that Django and Maria were just adoptive parents. They weren't even they were their aunt and uncle, and their real mother was Natalia Maximoff, who was the original Scarlet Witch, like a real sorceress, and then and their father was the Scarlet Warlock, and it just got confusing. It's just so I think that's one of the reasons I kind of stopped reading X Men. It's just that the background history and all that, it just got absolutely just crazy. I mean, I just couldn't follow it. I mean, especially when they start introducing all like alternative timelines and all that, and time jumps and all that, and that's when I just pretty much gave up on the X Men and I just like left it, and So anyway, I think that's what happened with Scarlet Witch. You got like a bunch of writers who really didn't know what to do with her, and then they just kind of like putting in a bunch of stuff. So eventually, she fell in love with the robot, the Vision, and and then they had two kids, which absolutely made no sense to me. How can you get pregnant by a robot? Again, a lot of bad writing, absolute bad writing all around. So her power, which is her power is just, I don't know what her power is. So basically, her power is to alter reality. And I guess that's the reason how she became pregnant, or how she made her two kids with a robot, Vision. Or I should stop saying robot. I should android, Vision. Now, Vision is another character that had like a really absolutely crazy background. He was originally the Human Torch, the original Human Torch, and again, it just just a lot of bad writing. So I really don't know what happened to Scarlet Witch in the current comic history, because they're constantly changing stuff, and with the recent TV show and movies, I'm pretty sure the comic book writers completely altered her history again to fit the movie narratives. So I don't know. All I know is her character is a mess, but her overall design, I think, is fantastic, especially with the headdress and all that. So there I am drawing the hand again. Like, I really enjoy drawing the hand. The hand is actually one of for me anyway, one of the easiest thing to draw. And I learned how to draw the hand by looking at a lot of Neo Adam stuff. So whenever I feel kind of uninspired and stuff like that, I often look at Neo Adams stuff, especially when it comes to drawing hands and all that, the forced perspective and all that. Neo just had it down. I mean, Neo Adam in the 60s and 70s was just like, that guy was just unbelievable. I think he was like the best comic book artist I've ever seen during that time period, the 60s and 70s. I mean, no one could touch him. So there I am drawing the Scarlet Witch's hip. So the realistic proportion is 6.5 heads tall. That's like on average, that's the normal proportion. But when I draw comic book characters, I usually draw them at roughly around like 8 heads tall, roughly, which is often the I guess like the heroic proportion. Now the tricks about drawing women is like you don't want to. I prefer I prefer very Rubenesque women, the hourglass shape and all that. And I know a lot of some people don't like that, but sue me, that's the type of women I like to draw. And so, but the secret is, don't make them too chunky, because if you add too thick, they become a little bit too chunky. So basically, I'm embracing it. Not because I made a mistake. Once I have the body down, I lightly erase it, and which kind of get rid of all the stray marks and all that. And then I have like a faint outline of the underdrawing, and then from there I basically redraw it, reinforce the line. So you won't have these like multiple like small scratchy lines. So by doing this, I kind of like almost like it's in a weird way. It's kind of like inking, basically going and like putting the final lines, the final pencil lines. So once I lightly erase the drawing, I go in and basically redraw it, not completely redraw it, but kind of like retrace it, and by getting rid of all the hesitation lines and all the scratchy, sketchy lines, and I have this like strong outline. Again, drawing that hand. And then, and the Scarlet Witch that I grew up with anyway in the 80s and 90s, she had this kind of like that cape. I'm not, it's kind of like I don't know what you call it. She kind of had this almost like a scarf thing around her neck, which I thought was a great design element. The thing that I never understood, which I was kind of confused about, is Scarlet Witch has this. She has underneath her, I guess her one piece bikini, or not bikini, but a bathing suit. She has this like another layer of like very like a pink outfit, like a body, like a full body pink outfit. It's not That's not her natural skin. She's actually it's a fabric, I guess, which I never understood that. So if you look at Scarlet Witch in comics, you'll see her arms and chest and legs. They're pink, and while her face is flesh toned. So that always tripped me up when I used to draw Scarlet Witch, because I wasn't sure if it was the flesh or was like a thin layer of cloth or something. So I'm sure a lot of people are saying, there's Frank again drawing those thick women. Would he ever draw these, like skinny women? I said, man, to me this this is like the perfect proportion when drawing women. Where's the knee and the lower leg? I'm drawing that the bathing suit. So yeah, I never understood her power. I guess her power is to blend, alter reality, but she always, every time I've seen comic books of her, she's always like shooting kind of like energy bolts from her hand. So I'm not sure what that is. Um, so they call it, I guess that energy that comes from her is called chaos magic, which I'm not sure what that is. Um, and she can actually teleport, which I didn't know that. I mean, um, I guess she can time jump and stuff like that. And and what else? And yeah, and then I guess in the TV show, movies, they kind of like really push her into the black magic area instead of having these, like a straight up superhero, shooting blast and power bolts from her hand. They just start making her do a lot of black magic stuff. Now that hand just drove me nuts. The left hand just kind of drove you nuts. So again, like I said in other videos, if it looks right, it's right. If it looks wrong, it's wrong. And if you make a mistake, if it looks wrong, just erase it and do it over. So this is the stage that I love the best, the pencil stage, because you're just like having fun. It's like being in the sandbox. You're just making stuff, destroying stuff, and all that. So I drew the hand, and then and I looked at it. I was like, yeah, you know what? It didn't look. I wasn't happy with it, so I erased it. No harm, no foul. So I tried to kind of mirror her other hand, in a slightly different angle. Whereas, so be careful not to draw, uh, especially women, not to give them like sausage fingers. Make sure their fingers are very delicate, graceful and tapered. And I'm going into the hair. Actually, I really enjoy drawing hair. I enjoy drawing hair and the fabrics and all that stuff. Give it a nice little slight wavy texture to her hair. The guy who draws hair really well is Adam Hughes. Adam Hughes just draws his well. Adam Hughes just draws everything really well. But I've always enjoyed his hair. So I'm kind of going off model a bit. Because the Scarlet Witch I grew up, she had this kind of like just a regular glove that kind of like ended mid forearm, but I decided to give her kind of like a long glove, almost like an evening glove. Same with her boots. The Scarlet Witch from the '80s had she was wearing these kind of like a Superman boots that kind of like that kind of ended at the mid at the shin level, but I decided to give her like a thigh high boots. It actually looks a lot like a Dave Cockrum design. You can see a Dave Cockrum design a mile away. Now, so when you're drawing a cape, I like to think of it as like a mass of hair, you know. So I'm actually more interested in kind of like an aid, like a compositional aid. So since her right hand is up, I needed the cape to kind of billow up on the left hand side. So I'm basically using the cape as a compositional tool to kind of balance out the overall composition. So the guy that really knew that I really enjoy their depiction of like cloth billowing in the wind, like capes and scarves and stuff like that. I've always enjoyed Maxfield Parrish had a really good sense of design and eye for drawing billowing capes and scarves and stuff like that. And another guy who had a fantastic eye for drawing these capes is Frank Frazetta. So those two guys I often look for at for inspiration when I'm drawing capes and stuff like that. I mean, at this point, it was just like I'm just looking at just an overall general shape, and I've drawn so many capes at this point in my life that I can just like just wing it, and just make it look good. Again, this is all just comes with practice. There's nothing really magical about it. You just practice, practice, practice. What's that saying goes? The more you draw, I think there's 10,000 bad drawings in you. So the more you draw, the more you get those bad drawings out of you, the better you become. So I know a lot of people have trouble drawing capes and cloth and draperies and stuff like that. So when I was younger, I used to kind of like pose the towels. I used to grab a towel from the bathroom and pose it, drape it on a chair, and then I would kind of sketch it, kind of see how the fabric kind of like falls and behaves and gravity and all that stuff. So I'm just kind of like softening the lines of the cape to give it a more of a like a sense of movement, kind of softening it up. And also by softening the cape, it basically reinforces it makes the people focus on the main body, the main figure work. So I got the template to draw that the energy glow from her hand. So I need a bigger template. So I went and grabbed the bigger one. So if you guys can just kind of like, if you guys want to help me out, you guys can kind of like explain to me what exactly her power is, and I've always kind of had a hard time understanding the power of these magical superheroes. But yeah, she is kind of an odd character because originally she started off as a superhero, and then they kind of like recast her as a like a real witch with magical power, hexes and curses and stuff like that. Before she was more like a kind of like a Miss Marvel type character, I assume, where she can just blast people with like energy bolts from her hand. But now, as I read more about her, I guess she is. They did kind of like made her into like a true witch. So adding some highlights to the hair. I know that George Perez would have like curly hair, just kind of fall, like get caught between the that seemed to come out of her forehead. You know, kind of like I never really care for that look. I've always like thought that the hairdress, the headgear is more like a kind of like pushes the hair away from her face, you know, to give her like a clear sight, you know, field of vision. So I'm just basically strengthening the outline of the overall figure work, you know. Giving like a really bold, clear outline. That's something Alphonse Musha would do. So that's kind of like a more of a like a kind of like a poster art thing, having like a thick, clear line around the figure work. So it's really easy to see and understand. So yeah, when you're drawing the cape, you know, don't be afraid to use like the shadows. I'm just amazed at Jack Kirby. I mean, Jack Kirby, he basically just designed all these characters. Just a sheer amount of imagination that just visual information and imagination that guy had that just poured out of him is just absolutely amazing. So he basically created all, you know, essentially created set the foundation for the entire Marvel universe, and everything is based on his design. And so all these future artists that came after him, they took his design and kind of tweaked it, essentially. But the initial design was by Jack Kirby, and just when I think about that, just all of this just started off from Jack is just like it's just crazy. I mean, talk about literally a true genius in the field. I mean, Jack was it. Jack Kirby was it. Just more softening. And at this point, I mean, the figure work is done. I'm just kind of at this point just adding the kind of like the texture and shading and stuff like that. Erasing stray marks. I guess just purely from her design, her costume. I mean, Scarlet Witch is one of my favorite characters to draw. not my favorite characters to read, because her story, her background story is just an absolute mess. But I just like how she looks. So I'm just reinforcing the line work at this point. Now, somebody said that Scarlet Witch may be the most powerful character in the Marvel universe. Perhaps. I mean, anyone who can alter reality is up there. So there she is, the Scarlet Witch. Hope you guys enjoyed it.